Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where our mission is, well, cutting through the noise, stacking up sources, and really digging out those nuggets of knowledge that help you get instantly well-informed. Today, we're diving deep into something. Well, it's fascinating because it's both everyday and, I think, quite extraordinary. We've got a transcript from a Coffee Break English language learning segment.
Right.
Now, I know what you might be thinking, a language lesson. What's deep about that? Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Our mission today, go way beyond just the grammar, though we'll touch on that. It's quite neat, actually. Instead, we're going to peel back the layers. We want to extract some genuinely fascinating insights about cinema, yeah? About how we perceive stories and even the subtle ways we talk about our own experiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our source material is, well, it's unique. It's a transcript of a conversation, quite natural, spontaneous, really. And that gives us this amazing window into how we actually use language day to day and the shared cultural stuff, around movies.
Exactly. That's what makes it so compelling. Because what looks like, a simple chat about what films you like may be designed to teach some basic English.
Right.
It very quickly becomes this rich tapestry for understanding not just English mechanics, but the whole psychology of entertainment, how we categorize things, how we make sense of the world through stories.
That's a great way to put it.
It's a perfect example, really, of how these everyday topics, like just chatting about your favorite genre, they're absolutely packed with opportunities for learning, for connecting with people, whether that's through language itself or just, that shared love of a good story. So this deep dive, we're going to peel back those layers.
Okay.
The source, it has this dual nature, right? It's talking about films, but it's also subtly teaching these key language points. And we're going to dissect both for you.
Great.
The idea is you walk away with a clearer picture of maybe film culture, but also a better appreciation for how we use English to express these really subjective things. Your likes, dislikes, how things make you feel.
Yeah, regardless of where you're starting from with English.
Exactly. You'll find these little gems of insight, even in the most casual chats, if you just, know where to look.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And where better to start than with that personal connection, the heart of any good chat. The transcript kicks off with a really simple, direct question. Do you like watching films?
Basic stuff.
And Kate, she's the speaker in the transcript. She doesn't miss a beat. Just jumps right in. I do.
Yeah.
Very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
It's a great opener, sets the stage for her to talk about her tastes. And that gives us a perfect way into this whole world of film genres. She quickly mentions her top picks, fantasy films and biopics.
Okay, interesting combo.
So let's jump straight into fantasy first. Her reason for liking them. It's simple, but I think everyone gets it. The stories are always really exciting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Escapism, maybe.
Totally. And she gives a couple of great examples that show the range. On one hand, you've got the huge action stuff like Marvel films. She specifically mentions Avengers, Endgame.
Right, the superhero epics.
Exactly. And then on the other end, something like the Lord of the Rings films. Big, sprawling fantasy worlds.
Okay, so both the superhero type and the more high fantasy world building sort of thing.
Yeah, it seems like she enjoys that sense of scale, the adventure, the excitement.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, it really shows why fantasy is so captivating for so many people. Her point about exciting stories, it points to something deep, doesn't it? A human need for narratives that go beyond the everyday grind.
Yeah, beyond just pure escape.
Exactly. It's more than just escapism. Fantasy often taps into these collective archetypes, Our desire for good versus evil, finding order in chaos, maybe exploring identity in these extraordinary situations.
They have modern myths.
Precisely. Think about, say, Lord of the Rings. There's a comfort in that clear moral structure, right? Good is good, evil is evil, and even the smallest person can make a difference. Or Marvel superheroes. Yeah, they have amazing powers, but they're always wrestling with very human things, flaws, anxieties, tough moral choices.
Makes them relatable, despite the powers.
Absolutely. So it's kind of like myth-making for today. It offers an escape from reality sometimes, sure, but often it also gives us this, framework for understanding our own world.
Interesting.
And the superhero thing specifically with Marvel that taps into this deep-seated wish for heroism, right? For overcoming impossible odds. It's a powerful narrative hook. Gets you invested emotionally, intellectually.
Yeah, these stories operate on a completely different scale than, paying the bill.
Right, much more exciting, just like Kate said.
Okay, so that's fantasy. Then she makes quite a jump, really, to biopics. grounded in reality.
Yeah, quite the shift.
And her reason for liking these is totally different. She says, they help me learn about real events from history.
Okay, so an educational impulse there, almost.
Yeah, it seems so. A contrast to the pure imagination of fantasy. She even defines biopic for us comes from biography and picture. Basically, a film about someone's life.
Makes sense.
And her specific example is First Man, the story of Neil Armstrong, who was the first man on the moon.
Right.
And she just mentioned it. She really recommends it. Says, it's a really good film. I recommend it to you.
Okay, strong endorsement. And this brings up a really important question, doesn't it? About how powerful stories are for teaching history. I mean, why is watching a film like First Man often so much more memorable, more impactful than reading about it in a textbook?
Yeah, good question. It just sticks with you more.
Exactly. Biopics are brilliant at bridging that gap, between the abstract historical fact man landed on the moon and the relatable human experience. By focusing on Neil Armstrong, his journey, his struggles, the film turns this huge historical moment into something you feel you've lived through, almost.
You connect with the person.
Right. You don't just learn that it happened. You get a sense of the pressure, the fear, the sacrifice involved for the actual people. It makes history human, engaging, empathetic. But, it also raises those interesting questions about truth and storytelling. How much freedom can filmmakers take?
Yeah, where's the line between fact and drama?
Precisely. And what does our liking for these personal stories say about how we process history? Do we maybe value that emotional connection over, strict accuracy sometimes?
Could be.
First Man isn't just a list of events. It's an interpretation of Armstrong's inner world, the immense pressure. And that's where its power lies, often more than just the facts alone.
That specific detail, Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon, that's the anchor, isn't it? Shows how film can teach without feeling like a lesson.
Exactly. It makes learning feel natural, engaging.
Okay, so we've got the genres Kate loves.
Yeah.
Fantasy, biopics. Now let's switch gears to the ones she really doesn't like, or at least has a bit of a tricky relationship with.
Okay, the flip side.
First up, romantic comedies. And she doesn't mince words here, just straight up, I really don't like romantic comedies.
Wow, okay. Strong feelings.
Yeah. And her main reason, the stories and characters are always unrealistic.
The realism issue.
Exactly. The transcript even defines unrealistic, for us, hard to believe, not like reality. Contrasted with realistic, which is, like real life.
Got it.
She gives examples like Notting Hill, Love Actually, calling that one a Christmas romantic comedy.
Classics of the genre, some would say.
Right. But her experience with the last one she watched really seems to have sealed the deal. She just calls it terrible.
Ouch.
And she explains why. The plot wasn't interesting and the actors weren't very good.
Okay. Fundamental problems then.
Totally. And the result sounds pretty grim. I was very bored and it was difficult to stay awake. I think we've all been there with a bad movie.
Oh, definitely. That feeling is universal. And what's fascinating there is this whole expectation of reality, isn't it? Especially in fiction. Kate's criticism about things being unrealistic, it really shines a light on where immersion breaks down for some people.
Yeah, what pulls you out of the story?
Exactly. For some genres, maybe like rom-coms, which are often set in worlds that look like ours, relatability is kind of key, right?
You expect to believe it on some level.
Right. So if the character's actions or the way the plot unfolds feels too forced, too unbelievable within that context, it can just really jar you.
Unlike fantasy, where you buy into the unreal premise from the start.
Precisely. In fantasy, that's part of the deal. You embrace the unreality. But in a rom-com, if it feels too fake, too contrived, it pulls you right out. And Kate's description of that terrible film plot wasn't interesting. Actors weren't very good. I mean, let's be honest, those are major fails for any film.
Yeah, core components.
When those things don't work, boredom is almost inevitable. Her struggling to stay awake, that says it all.
Yeah.
It really shows that even lighter genres need some level of, narrative integrity, emotional truth, good performances to actually work and keep you invested.
Needs that internal logic, even if it's heightened reality.
Exactly. Consistency within its own world.
Okay, now for horror films.
Yeah.
This one's more complex for her, more nuanced.
Right, not a straight dislike.
She says, I quite like horror films, but they're very scary.
Fair enough. That's kind of the point, isn't it?
Right. The definition given is pretty simple. Very scary, maybe with monsters or ghosts. The Exorcist is the example.
A classic benchmark for scary.
Yeah. But her experience with A Quiet Place is really telling. She watched it in the cinema with my friends.
Okay. The communal experience.
And the result, pure terror, apparently.
Yeah.
She explains exactly why. We were very scared because the cinema was so dark. And this is key. There wasn't any music in the film, so the atmosphere was very tense.
Ah, the sound design or lack thereof.
Exactly. And the group reaction. We were all terrified.
Wow. Sounds intense.
So intense, it actually changed how she watches horror now. She says she prefers to watch them at home with the lights on.
That's really interesting. A definite shift in behavior based on one experience. Yeah, it is fascinating, and it lets us connect this personal anecdote to the bigger picture of how horror films actually work, how they manipulate our feelings. Kate's detailed story about A Quiet Place is like a mini masterclass in horror techniques. She flags the key elements the source mentions, the immersive darkness of the cinema, the deliberate absence of music, and that resulting tense atmosphere. These things amplified her fear massively.
They're tools the filmmaker uses.
Absolutely. They're meticulously crafted. Darkness makes us feel vulnerable, right? Less visual info, more reliance on other senses makes any potential threat seem bigger.
And the lack of music. You'd think that might be less scary.
You might, but often it does the opposite. It makes every tiny sound or just the silence itself incredibly loud, incredibly unnerving. It builds this almost unbearable tension because you're straining to hear what might happen next.
You're leaning in, waiting for the jump scare.
Exactly. Psychologically, it puts you right on edge. And her shift from the cinema to watching at home with the lights on, that's really insightful.
Yeah. What does that tell us?
It speaks directly to wanting to manage the intensity, right? She says she quite likes horror, so she enjoys the thrill, the adrenaline maybe, but that cinema experience was maybe too much, too overwhelming. So now she seeks a more controlled environment.
The safety of home.
Precisely. It highlights how much the viewing environment shapes our emotional response. At home, lights on, there's this psychological safety net. She can still engage with the genre she likes, but it's on her terms. She can dial down the terror factor.
Right.
It just shows that our choices about how we watch are often about curating our own emotional experience, finding that comfort level, even with stuff we enjoy being scared by.
Okay, so we've really explored Kate's personal map of the cinematic world, what she loves, what she avoids. And that naturally leads us to thinking about, well, how films actually achieve these effects. Or sometimes why they fail.
Yeah, breaking it down.
So let's shift from the broad genres to the specific building blocks of any film. We can pull these right from the vocabulary and the observations in the transcript itself. Understanding these parts is really key to figuring out why a film clicks or why it just completely misses the mark.
Absolutely. The anatomy of film, essentially.
Okay, first component, the script. The transcript defines it clearly. The words that the actors speak in the film.
The dialogue, yeah.
And remember Kate's comment about First Man? She specifically said the script was excellent.
High praise.
That's not just a throwaway line, is it? It points to how vital those written words are right from the start.
Oh, absolutely. Saying a script is excellent.
Yeah.
That implies so much more than just good lines.
Right.
It suggests a strong structure, a compelling narrative, characters that develop maybe, a plot that makes sense and keeps you hooked. The script is, it's the blueprint, isn't it? It dictates everything. The pacing, the characters' and motivations, their emotional journeys, the whole tone and theme of the film.
Before a single frame is shot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A really well-crafted script can turn even a simple idea into something profound, something that resonates emotionally long before you add the visuals. It's the skeleton, the backbone.
Yeah.
If the script isn't strong, even amazing visuals or brilliant acting can feel a bit hollow. There's no solid story holding it all together.
Okay, from the words to the pictures, special effects, defined as the things which are added by a computer in a movie.
The CGI, yeah.
And Kate, again, using First Man, said the special effects were impressive. And I love that little aside in the transcript, reminding us this film was not filmed on the moon.
Yeah. Right. Good clarification.
No, it wasn't. I think it would be a bit too difficult. It's funny, but it really underlines how necessary and powerful these effects are.
It really does. And what's fascinating there is that seamless link, that collaboration between what the script demands and what the special effects deliver.
Right. One enables the other.
Exactly. The story of First Man needed a trip to the moon. Obviously, you can't film that for real.
Not easily, anyway.
Right. So impressive special effects make that impossible journey feel completely real, totally believable. It shows how far effects have come. They're not just for explosions anymore. They're crucial for world building, for creating environments, historical settings, things that just don't exist or aren't accessible.
Expanding what stories can be told.
Massively. They enhance the immersion, make the impossible seem tangible. They're vital for transporting the audience, making the story credible, impactful. Some stories just couldn't be told without them.
All right, next up, the plot. Simple definition. The story. What happens in the film.
The narrative thread.
And we already heard Kate's take on that rom-com she hated. The plot wasn't interesting.
Yeah, pretty damning.
That sounds like such a fundamental killer for a movie, doesn't it? If the story itself doesn't grab you.
It's absolutely critical, yeah. If the plot wasn't interesting, like Kate found, that's basically game over for audience engagement.
Yeah.
An uninteresting plot. Well, it could be predictable, maybe, no surprises, or maybe it's just confusing, full of holes, or just too slow. Nothing really happens to keep you invested. It means the story failed to create that sense of wanting to know what happens next. Failed to make you care about the characters or their situation. You just can't overstate how important plot is for keeping people watching and enjoying it. It's what drives everything forward. It's why we care. If the plot's weak, the whole thing just collapses, like Kate experienced boredom sets in.
Leads to checking your watch or falling asleep.
Exactly. It's the engine. If the engine fails, you're not going anywhere.
And of course, films need characters and the actors who play them. Definitions are straightforward. Characters are the people in the story. Actors are the stars, like Brad Pitt, the example given.
Right, the human element.
And Kate's criticisms of the rom-com come back here, too. She said, the actors weren't very good, and the characters are always unrealistic.
Okay, hitting both sides there. Yeah, and that raises that key question about the relationship between the writing and the performance. It's totally symbiotic.
A two-way street.
Absolutely. If the characters are written badly, unrealistic, maybe shallow, unmotivated, inconsistent, then even the best actor in the world is going to struggle to make them believable or engaging.
Right, they've got nothing to work with.
Exactly, but flip it around. If the actors weren't very good, as Kate put it, they can take even well-written characters and make them feel flat, wooden, just not convincing. You really need both working together. Good writing and good acting are crucial for making that connection with the audience, for making us believe in the story, even if it's set in a galaxy far, far away.
So if both are weak, like in Kate's experience,
then it's a double whammy. It creates this huge barrier to getting invested emotionally. You just feel disconnected, unsatisfied. It shows how vital that human touch is, both in writing and performing.
Okay, final element. Atmosphere.
Yeah.
Defined as the feeling, it's the impression that you get when watching the film.
The vibe.
Yeah, the overall vibe. And Kate's comment on A Quiet Place was spot on. The atmosphere was very tense. The transcript even clarifies tense is the opposite of relaxed, really driving home that feeling.
Yeah, an atmosphere isn't just like an accident. It's a deliberate creation.
Right, it's crafted.
Totally. It's not just one thing. It's this holistic feeling built from a combination of elements. The visuals, like that dark cinema Kate mentioned, the sound, or crucially in A Quiet Place, the lack of sound, the absence of music, and, of course, the story itself, the narrative tension,
all working together,
all contributing to this overall emotional environment. In horror, like A Quiet Place, making the atmosphere tense is the goal. It heightens your anxiety, makes you feel fear more intensely, keeps you constantly on edge.
Immerses you in the character's fear.
Exactly. It's the emotional texture the film wraps around you. It's what transforms just watching something into a deeply felt, sometimes overwhelming experience. It's the emotional world the film builds for you.
Okay, so we've journeyed through Kate's tastes, broken down the films into their parts. But let's circle back to where this all started. Remember, the source is actually language learning segment.
Right, the original purpose.
So let's pivot now and look at the language lesson itself, the one that's kind of subtly woven into this whole chat about movies. It's a great example of how even just a casual conversation is packed with opportunities to learn and practice a language.
Yeah, absolutely. Language isn't just in textbooks. It's out there in everyday talk.
Yeah.
And the core grammatical focus here is the past simple of the verb to be.
Was and were.
Exactly. Now, yeah, it sounds basic, maybe one of those things you learn, but its role in telling stories about ourselves, about our experiences, makes it incredibly important. And the beauty of it in English, as the source points out, is it's pretty simple, just two forms, was and were.
Yeah. Not too complicated.
The source gives the full rundown. I was, you were, he, shite was, we were, they were. But the real takeaway isn't just memorizing that. It's seeing how this simple structure lets us talk about how things were in the past. Think about it. Was and were are the tools we use to describe states, conditions, feelings from the past. It's how we paint that emotional picture.
Right. Not just what happened, but how it felt.
Precisely. Look at Kate talking about that bad rom-com. I was very bored. It was difficult to stay awake. She's using was to convey her internal state, her subjective experience.
Oh.
Same with the horror film. We were very scared. The atmosphere was very tense. These simple words let her describe the feeling, the conditions, the shared emotion of that moment.
And the negatives, too, like, wasn't interesting.
Exactly. The plot wasn't interesting. The actors weren't very good. It efficiently signals a lack of something in the past. So this basic grammar transforms a simple sequence of events into a rich personal story full of boredom or fear or excitement. It's absolutely essential for telling anyone about anything that's already happened, especially if you want to share how you felt about it.
And it's really useful how easily this structure flips into questions, isn't it? That's often how we get these stories started in the first place.
Yeah, prompting the narrative.
The source shows how easy it is. Like the opening question, what was the last film you watched? Simple inversion, subject, and verb swap places. They even give that nice little personal touch with the question, what was your favorite film when you were a child? And it turns out, for both speakers in the original chat, the answer was The Sound of Music.
Ah, nice. Shared memory.
Yeah. It just shows how fundamental was and where are for sharing personal histories, sparking memories, and just connecting with people over shared experiences.
And building on that, the really key thing here is how this seemingly basic grammar, was and were, is actually the engine that lets us do so much. Recount past experiences with nuance, give opinions on things that happen, describe past situations vividly.
The building blocks.
Absolutely. Without was and were, Kate's whole story about her film experiences, or her likes, dislikes, how scary A Quiet Place felt, it would just be impossible to tell that story effectively.
Yeah, you couldn't express any of that.
That's the linguistic glue, really. It holds together personal reflection, sharing memories, comparing past events. Its simplicity is deceptive. It's incredibly powerful for communication, especially when you're talking about feelings or judgments about the past.
Okay, so beyond the grammar, the transcript also does a great job of highlighting some key vocabulary, words you really need if you want to talk about films in any detail.
Yeah, the specific terminology.
It's about giving you the right tools for the job, basically. So let's quickly recap some of them. First, genre, defined as types or sorts of film. They mention it's a French word we use in English, which is interesting. Borrowed vocabulary.
Then, unrealistic. We talked about this one over C. Kate felt strongly about it. They stress its opposite, realistic, and how that relates to our expectations. Really important for understanding why we react differently to different stories.
Yeah, crucial distinction.
Then plot, just the story, what happens. Applicable to books and TV too, of course. Actors, the stars, the people bringing characters to life. And those two vivid words from Kate's experiences. Awake, meaning not asleep. Linked to wake up, perfect for her boredom during the rom-com. And terrified, which they define as very, very scared. Really capturing that extreme fear from A Quiet Place. Good, strong vocabulary there. And looking at the bigger picture, this specific vocabulary isn't just a random list, it's a toolkit. It genuinely empowers you, the listener, to talk about your own film experiences with much more precision.
Yeah, go beyond just good or bad.
Exactly. Instead of just, I didn't like it, you can say why. The plot wasn't interesting, the characters felt unrealistic, the atmosphere was too tense for me.
Gives you the language for analysis.
Precisely. It allows for richer conversations, deeper thinking about films, and just a better way to share your reactions. It's the framework for having more sophisticated discussions about something we all enjoy talking about. It lets you explain the how and the why behind your feelings.
And one last language point they touch on, something practical that often comes up. The difference between British and American English for this topic.
Yes. Film versus movie.
Right. The source states it clearly. Film is British English and movie is American English.
Like standard distinction.
But then it immediately adds that helpful, realistic note. But to be honest, we could use both, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is true in practice. Yeah, and that's a great little point about language variation, isn't it? And about mutual understanding. Film versus movie is a classic example of those small regional differences in words. But the fact that they say we can use both is a nice reminder that language is fluid, it adapts. The main goal is usually just effective communication.
Not rigid rules all the time.
Exactly. Context usually makes the meaning perfectly clear, even with these minor differences. It's about being understood, not necessarily about sticking strictly to one dialect.
That's quite reassuring, especially if you're learning English.
Definitely. It takes some pressure off. Focus on communicating clearly. That's the main thing.
So we've covered a lot of ground genres, film elements, even the grammar and vocab used to discuss them. And what really stands out, I think, is how powerful Kate's personal stories were in making it all stick.
Yeah, the anecdotes really grounded it.
Her enthusiasm for First Man, her struggle through that bad rom-com, that really intense fear watching A Quiet Place. Those vivid emotional accounts made the points about was and where, or words like plot and atmosphere feel real.
Not just abstract concepts.
Connected to actual feelings.
Exactly. It shows that stories themselves are often the best way to learn and remember things. Her reactions brought the language to life.
So what does all this mean for you listening right now? Well, it means next time you watch a film, maybe think about it slightly differently. You're not just passively consuming entertainment. You're engaging with story structures, visual techniques, a whole language, really, that you can use to understand it better and talk about it more effectively.
Become a more active viewer.
Yeah. So we'd really encourage you to think about your own film experiences. How would you describe them now, using some of these ideas, this language we've explored? Think about the last film you loved, or one that really disappointed you. Can you pinpoint why now? Was it the plot, the characters, the atmosphere, maybe the script or the special effects? Try articulating it for yourself. Use the toolkit.
And building on that, let's loop back to Kate's choice about watching horror films, remember? From the dark cinema to home with the lights on.
Yeah, that really stuck with me.
It's more than just a preference, isn't it? It's a conscious decision about managing her own emotional response, her comfort level, her sensory input.
Controlling the intensity.
Exactly. It really throws a spotlight on how much the environment where you watch affects the actual experience. The overwhelming immersion of a dark cinema versus the controlled safety of your living room.
Huge difference.
So it makes you think, doesn't it? How much control do you like over your viewing? Reflect on your own habits. Why do you choose the cinema for some things and home for others?
Do you seek total immersion sometimes, or do you prefer that feeling of control?
What does that choice maybe reveal about your own relationship with storytelling, with managing your emotions? It's quite personal when you dig into it. And finally, let's connect back to those simple closing questions from the source transcript. The ones Kate asks her listeners. What genres of film do you like? And what was the last film you watched?
Perfect use of was, right?
Exactly. But they're more than just grammar practice. They're genuine invitations. Invitations to share, to connect with others, but also to reflect inwardly on your own tastes and experiences.
Prompts for your own mini deep dive.
Precisely. They're asking you, the listener, to take everything we've talked about today and apply it to yourself.
So take those questions, think about your answers,
Yeah.
but maybe go a bit deeper than just the title or the genre.
Yeah. Think about how you watched it. Why did it resonate? Or why did it fall flat for you? That kind of reflection is where the real learning happens, where it becomes part of how you see things. Hashtag tag outro.
And that wraps up another deep dive. We went from personal film preferences, fantasy, biopics, the struggles with rom-coms and horror, right into the nuts and bolts of filmmaking. Script, effects, plot, characters, atmosphere. And then we connected it all back to the language itself, looking at how fundamental things like was and were and specific words like genre or tense help us share those experiences. It's really quite amazing how a simple chat about movies can open up so many layers: language, storytelling, psychology, the whole human experience, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe as a final thought for you to take away, consider not just what films or genres you like, but dig into the why. And think about how the whole experience of watching where you are, who you're with, maybe even your mood that day, how all that shapes your reaction.
The context matters.
Hugely. And it raises a bigger question, perhaps. In this world where we're just flooded with content, constantly consuming stories in so many ways, what does your preferred way of watching, your preferred way of engaging with narrative actually say about you? about your relationship with stories, with emotion, with sensory experience.
Interesting question.
And how does understanding that relationship maybe make you a more conscious, more discerning, maybe even a more enriched viewer, reader, listener, a more enriched person? It's really about understanding yourself a bit better through the stories you choose and how you choose to experience them.